right, I'm live finally. Oh my goodness, I am so sorry. This was just, I ended up, I don't know what happened. Google wouldn't let me come in as Larry on my YouTube account because I use, because this is Larry Nichols' official channel, it wouldn't let me come in. And so do you hear me now? Am I live? Do you hear me? Is everything okay or not? I've got to, please let me know. Okay, good. All right, let me get Elly in here. I'm going to send her the link right now. Just give me a sec. I am so sorry. Google would not let me get into the YouTube account, and I got into the YouTube account, and then they wouldn't let me get into StreamYard because I go, with the YouTube account, it's Larry Nichols' official channel. And they just wouldn't let me. I got things so messed up because they thought I had to go through my school email. They wouldn't let me switch emails over to Ethics Campaign, and good grief. So I'm typing the code to Elly right now. Here, she's been waiting as long as you guys have. So let me double check that I sent her the right thing. Yeah, I did. Okay. All right. So now my phone is off and we're good to go. I am so sorry. So did you guys hear that the government is sending the Mercy ship and Comfort ship to New York Harbor to help with the expected volume of infected people? Now, the Mercy and Comfort ships cannot handle any of the, as Trump calls it, the China virus. They can't handle it, but they can be there to help with other medical things. The Mercy ship was here in Baltimore Harbor, 10, 15 years ago. I got to tour it. Boy, I'll tell you, was that state of the art impressive. They have 1,000 beds on it. It wasn't in use at the time. It was in, I don't know if it was in dry dock or what the deal was, or they had just pulled in to let people, it was open for tours. And a friend of mine, well, actually it was a patient of my ex-husband, was the woman who assigned all the doctors from the Naval Medical Center here in Bethesda, Maryland, just outside of DC. She was the one that assigned all the doctors. And so she took me and the kids up there and we toured it. And she was able to do that for us. So it was huge. And the dining room was bigger than any university dining room I've ever been in. It was really impressive to see the quality of facility that ship is. It was amazing. I was just absolutely amazing. And did you guys hear that, if any, Linda, you're in Illinois, right? Did you hear that WCIA, now that's an odd call number, WCIA, but the radio station or whatever station it was, WCIA, on Monday said that was putting out that Biden had won the election, but the election wasn't until Tuesday, the primary for, the Democrat primary. So they were really already saying that Biden had won. So while we're waiting for Elly, those are the two pieces of news that I caught. I did hear I heard the White House press conference this morning, and just my own personal information, just FYI. So my closing is set up for next Wednesday morning, 2 weeks from today. Yikes. The buyers won't come in till later in the day, so I'll just be there. I don't know if my agent's going to go with me. I hope she does, because I really don't like sitting there by myself, but I can handle that. So this thing is on, and I got to figure out what I'm going to do. And they are not closing down interstate travel yet. But of course, we're seeing the stock market crash. It was funny because at the beginning of Trump's press conference today, they had the Dow Jones numbers shining on the screen, and when I first looked, the Dow Jones was up 400 and some points, and then the next thing I knew, it was down 1,400, and last I heard, it's down 2,000 and something again. So we're back into record-setting territory. Yeah, I figured, Michael, that the other one would be near Seattle or San Francisco. I would imagine one or the other. Pretty impressive ships they are, I will say. Plato said something interesting. Those who are too smart to engage in politics are punished by being governed by those who are dumber. So I had to laugh when I read that. I don't remember where I saw that quote, but I was going through my notebook paper to find something for the scripture verses I wanted to read to you, and I came across that. Jordan Maxwell, an historian, so we are not in a benevolent, or not under a benevolent government. And then he also quoted Plato saying, the price for good people, the price that good people pay for non-involvement in public affairs is to be ruled by evil men. So that Plato was a very, very smart guy back how many centuries ago? Wasn't he didn't he exist like 400 BC, before Christ? So while we're concerned about what the White House is planning and what they're asking us to do, Maryland's governor put out yesterday that there is a $5,000 fine and up to 1 year in jail if you violate his order that all bars, all restaurants, that you're allowed to do drive-through, and you're allowed to call in and have them bring the meal to your car, or you can go in and do pickup. But restaurants have to be closed unless you're just doing drive-through or pickup. Thanks, Chris. 1452. Plato was not in 1452. He was not a contemporary of Christopher Columbus. So was he 452 BC? Anyhow, he was in Greece back a long time ago. Where was I? As I'm trying to I'm getting distracted with the chat. I was reading the stuff about Plato. Larry has talked to us about the importance of, the stock market now is down 1452. That's what I heard. That's what I heard during Trump's White House press conference. I have to say that Trump and Pence and Dr. Birx and whoever else they have are really doing a good job of communicating. And if you listen to them, everything they're saying sounds very, very believable, and that is the issue. And is this Elly saying that? No, it's not. So I don't know what that is. So that it sounds like they're doing a really good job to contain the virus. Maryland we went in 3 days, we went from 1 case to 5 cases to 9 cases. We are now at 85 or 83. And our governor has shut down all sporting events, all schools, fitness centers are closed, and nobody can get together if they are over a group of 10. So I see high school students in pairs. I just passed a couple kids headed to the tennis court. So, Michael Livingston suggesting that Soros is pushing the panic, shorting the markets, and James says a most complete documentary. Thank you, Gloria. Plato was 424 or to somewhere between 423 and 428 BC. That's what I thought. 400 and something was what I thought. I'm not sure what documentary you're talking about, James. And anyhow, what's really going on, as Larry has told us, whatever's in the news, what are they not telling us? They're voting on, payment to, who's going to get. I understand. I got a call last week that there is $1 trillion in bailouts being voted on by the Senate. So, is that going to be for the airlines, for restaurants, for who else? I mean, they've tried to help farmers. He's tried to do all this, and now he's thinking that the average Joe, not millionaires, but the average Joe's going to get something. So, sorry, I swallowed the wrong way again. Anyhow, I was reading Psalm 119 this morning. I did a couple other chapters too, but I was going to read some things out of Psalm 119. Verse 107 says, I have suffered, I was thinking of this, I'm reading through the Bible, and obviously I'm thinking a lot about what applies in my life. But as I'm going through this reading of the Bible, I started June 21st, I think it was last year, and hope to be done by, within a year this year again. I'm thinking, I'm just noticing things that I think apply to Larry, especially with what his health has been this last year. So Psalm 119 verse 107 says, I have suffered much. Renew my life, O Lord, according to your word. And when I think of according to your word, then I am thinking Psalm 118:17, which says, and I'm interpreting this, Larry will not die, but live and declare the works of the Lord. And then there was verse 71. My prayer for him is that when he comes out of this, he's going to say, it was good for me to be afflicted so that I might learn your decrees. And my prayer for him every day is, Lord, speak to him, because he's done that before in his, if he's in a coma, the Lord, he has dreamt that the Lord met him, and so that Jesus had, and that was last May. He wasn't too sure he wanted anybody else to know, because he thought that we would think he was nuts, but I assured him that I didn't think there was anything nuts about it at all, because I've heard of others this happening too. So starting at verse 115, man, Michael Livingston, you better believe it's no matter what, we better get out and vote for sure. But it's interesting that Bernie Sanders is not doing as well among the millennial vote as he had expected. So we'll see what happens come November. So back to Psalm 119, starting at verse 115. Away from me, you evildoers, that I may keep the commands of my Lord God. Sustain me according to your promise, and I will live. Do not let my hopes be dashed. That's verse 116. Look at that with Psalm 118:17. I will not die, but live and declare the works of the Lord. Psalm 119:116. Sustain me according to your promise, and I will live. Do not let my hopes be dashed. Uphold me, and I will be delivered. I will always have regard for your decrees. And if you have read 28 Years to Nowhere, Larry talked about when the Lord spoke to him and said he had to tell the truth. And he has been very faithful to do that. And he realized that telling the truth wasn't just the truth about the Clintons, but the truth about his own sin and mistakes and what his past was in working with them. And then verse 118, you reject all who stray from your decrees, for their deceitfulness is in vain. And that just reminded me of the time, the verses that I have told you, like Psalm 5:5, where God hates the people who do iniquity, who are the evil, wicked evildoers. God hates them. So in 118, you reject all who stray from your decrees, for their deceitfulness is in vain. And I'm claiming that against our ruling elite who are just all about destroying this country for their own greed. Let's see, Psalm 119, verse 126. Let me get there. It is time for you to act, O Lord. Your law is being broken. Boy, I'll tell you, when we think of all the things that Obama made happen in our country and supported, and not only him, but, Madeleine Murray O'Hara in the 60s, and Roe versus Wade in the 73, 70s anyway. And then now verse 144, your statutes are forever right. Give me understanding that I may live. So, I ask you guys to pray that Psalm 118:17, I will not die but live and declare the works of the Lord. And also the end of Psalm 144, give me understanding that I may live. May the Lord speak to Larry in whatever condition he's in, and let him come back to lead the charge and help us through what we're going through. We need him advising the president. It would be great if he could do that. That's awesome. Linda's Bible study has been going through Psalm 119. Psalm 119 is the Hebrew alphabet in chunks of verses. For each section starts with a different Hebrew letter, and the whole chapter is about God's word. MW has heard there's been a break in France with the virus. Boy, that would be good news, because I hadn't heard that. But President Trump did say that he is keeping an eye on Italy and France very closely, and what's happening in China and South Korea as well. So back to verse 154. Defend my cause and redeem me. Renew my life according to your promise. And I'm claiming the promise of Psalm 1, verse 144. Give me understanding that I may live. And then 157 to 159. Many are the foes who persecute Larry, but he has not turned away from God's statutes. He loves the Lord with all his heart. If you listen to him talk about his belief in God, it's awesome. I look on the faithless with loathing. He has told us about how he hates some of these wicked people. But, at first I just thought, Larry, you got to forgive. And then I realized, wait a minute. He hates what God hates. So verse 158, I look on the faithless with loathing, for they do not obey your word. See how I love your precepts. Preserve my life, O Lord, according to your love. So let's pray that for Larry. Let's see, verse 164. This is something I took as a challenge to myself, and I am going to, I don't know what you're saying. Okay, scroll up. I'll have to do that when Elly gets here. Verse 164 says, 7 times a day I praise you for your righteous law, and great peace have they who love your law, and nothing can make them stumble or nothing can alarm them. So if we are in God's word, God will give us peace. God, and there's Psalm 4 says, great peace have those who love, that it talks about, I will lie down and sleep because you only, Lord, give me peace. So, but I had never noticed 7 times a day I will praise you. God has been telling me as I try to pray for Larry, thank me for what I'm doing, Mary Ellen. Thank me for what I'm doing. And I love this 7 times a day. Whoops, let me get Elly in here. There you are. So I'm in Psalm 119 today. I'm in Psalm 119. So verse 164 says, 7 times a day I will praise you. I haven't yet because I had to go throughout the paperwork for closing today. And I've got a big bad echo with you, Elly.
Uh-oh.
So I'm going to see how many. Maybe what I'll do is just set my uh, alarm on my stove or the timer on my stove. But if you do it for 7 times a day, that is just about every 2 hours. So every 2 hours, I'm gonna while I'm working now to finish packing. Ben, can you turn me off for a minute so that I don't echo like that?
Cool.
Or just turn it down a little more. But every couple hours, I'm going to stop and I'm going to praise the Lord. I'm going to find some reason to say thank you because we're to say thank you in everything. So I've just got one more. And then verse 175. Let me live that I may praise you and may your laws sustain me. That's let me live that I may praise you. That is so similar to Psalm 118:17. I will not die, but live and declare the works of the Lord. Declare the works of the Lord. Let me live that I may praise you. So, this is all about the things that I have been claiming for Larry today as I'm, in my time in the Word this morning and as I think about him and so on. So, and then I wanted to remind us about, I think it's First Timothy 1:7. Let me just double check. I've got it's Second Timothy 1:7. God did not give us a spirit of timidity or fear, but a spirit of power, of love, and a sound mind or self-discipline. And don't forget that God said that greater works than he did, Jesus said, the greater works than he did shall we do also. So I just wanted to give you that encouragement. Yeah, discernment is really crucial. So anyhow, I hope you're encouraged by what I read. Elly, I've been on here for half an hour, and I am so sorry about the snafu getting started. Yeah, I've taken 20 minutes.
That's okay.
I was 10 minutes late coming in because I went to. Apparently, I had come into YouTube under my own name, and so they keep sending me to my personal email to get in, which I didn't want to do. And I tried to switch and they wouldn't let me switch. So I turned my computer off and it still is all goofed up. And right now my computer is totally goofed up and they're not letting me do anything that I want to do and need to do. And so folks, I don't know if I'm going to be able to set up tomorrow's show with the kind of things I normally do. I will go back and set it up, but I may not have anything in the description box at all. We'll see. So, all right, James is telling us that we need to listen to something that he watched.
I've seen that. What that documentary he's talking about? I seen it Friday or Saturday. I caught it and watched it. And, oh wow, a lot of info in that.
So who was that?
Wow, it's a good documentary. A lot of information for those that really want to look at what the deep state is doing.
Shoot.
I definitely recommend it. Mary Ellen, I don't get worried or concerned, you know. You know me, I don't get, ooh, I'm having a very ooh moment. The earthquake this morning in Utah, I said it was quiet, if those that watch my show, and the world's come alive, folks. There are major earthquakes starting up. I mean, they're 5.0s to 6s, but it was quiet this morning when I looked at my map and I read them all off. Utah is just tremor after tremor after tremor after tremor. There's some running a minute to 30 seconds apart, according to what I'm reading. There is 4.0s and 5.0s, 6.0s. I don't know if anybody knew it. Alaska had a good size one already. It has started over in Indonesia with some big ones. I'm looking at my map. I haven't let my map down. And the Atlantic plate I always talk about. It had one, and I haven't seen nothing over about a 2 or a 3. This one was a 4.9. This is, I don't know, folks. I don't know enough about earthquakes, but Dutch Sense is doing a premiere, and I gotta watch it. Um, there was another one. I said there was nothing around Australia this morning. They got hit with a 5.1 in northeast of Gisborne, New Zealand, and that wasn't there this morning. There was nothing around Australia or down there. Here's another one that's just north of northeast of. Boy, I'm excited. Um, Australia and Vanuatu,
Vanuatu.
Sola. It was a 6.1. There is major earthquakes starting to happen around the globe. This is what I call global seismic activity. And this is something to keep an eye on, folks. And wow, like I said, I'm excited over it. Now, excited as in very worried. And I have watched earthquakes for many, many years. And usually you'll have a 5 or 6.1 area and maybe one somewhere else. These are good size. And we're looking over 20 aftershocks in Utah. It is just rumbling and rumbling and rumbling. And I was talked about Puerto Rico doing that. This is Puerto Rico times 100. I've never seen it do this before. This many aftershocks. I've lived in California and been through the big ones there. It has never done this many aftershocks. And it's starting to be the same way on this one up in Alaska that hit. It was a 5.0, but it's already had 8 aftershocks. And, this concerns me. And now the other ones that's hit earlier around Indonesia and the ones around Australia, I've not seen very many aftershocks. The one in Utah, there is a plate that comes down through the center of the United States. It starts up around Canada and Alaska, and it goes down through the center of the states. It would go through Utah. It would go down and it curves. It's almost like a downward dip like this. And it goes all the way into Oklahoma City, and it goes all the way up to New Jersey. So, and this is a major fault line. It does go through pretty much Arkansas, and that's when they had the earthquake on that line is what caused the Mississippi to flow backwards. So this is on the midsection fault line that runs through the United States.
Now, wait a second.
Yellowstone looks okay. I went and looked today, and Yellowstone really does look okay. I don't see anything. Now, a few months back, Yellowstone was smoking, and there was clay pools that heated up that had never done that before. About 5 months ago, I don't know if many of you know about the La Brea tar pits in California. Those had decided to come up in the middle of the drains in downtown LA. That is not right. So there has been changes. I'm keeping an eye on it, but this seismic activity that's global right now is something we need to watch. I cannot say that there's going to be a big one. I just don't know. And I don't even think the USGS people know. I think they're, like I am, kind of sitting on pins and needles watching the map and watching the seismic activity to catch it, to just be able to say, hey, it's there, it happened, now what? I have been able to study enough of it that when you have one on a fault line, there is usually another one on the same fault line close. That's as far as I can go. I mean, my friend Karen, I don't know if she's in here. Me and her has done a little bit of research on it, and I did it one day to where I did predict one, but when you start predicting earthquakes online, USGS shuts you down. So I can't, I know stuff, but I just can't say because I don't want poor Mary Ellen to get cut or me. So, but if you guys got any questions on the earthquakes, on what's going on or exactly where they're at, I got my map up and it's giving me as they go. And as we're looking, they're still, let's see if they're still a minute apart. Sounds like a baby giving, it's a minute apart.
Hi, Karen. Karen's here.
20.
So where is it the Utah fault that runs through the New Madrid that they're on the Kentucky-Missouri line? You said something about a fault line.
Yeah, it's there's a main fault line, and it starts up like if this is Canada, and this would be like Oklahoma, it runs through those states down, and it comes around, so here's Oklahoma, Arkansas, and then it takes a sharp curve upward and goes through all those states, all the way to right about New Jersey. So there's the main, and Yellowstone pretty much is real close to it, or on it. I wish I had my other map that I had through Dutch Sense that I could show you guys. Looks like I'm going to be doing earthquake digging. Oh yeah, and Dutch Sense did put a show out today. It's on right now, same time as ours. I was hoping he would do it later this evening, but I think he's excited too. And I was ready to come on and say, you know what, this is global activity, too much, in turbo effect. And then I, looked at his, and the title he has on his is saying the same thing. And on I could see a picture, and there is just rings everywhere, and everywhere those rings are, or the earthquakes. And I opened it for a second. I just said, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. So, but remember and have faith. When Jesus was asked about it, he said, there's going to be earthquakes in diverse places. Don't let the earthquake scare you that this is it, because he did assure us, don't worry, there's going to be earthquakes. What I'm worried for is people that live in earthquake zones, because when it snaps, there's no warning. It's not like a hurricane. It's not like a tornado or any like that. When it happens, it just happens.
Well, we've got a big issue with the Cascades because, off the coast there's a tectonic plate let me see which way you go. Guys, I can't tell which is left and right based on what I see. So if you're saying, let me back up. If this is Washington State and this is the plate that's in the Pacific plate, I don't know if I'm doing this forwards or backwards to you guys. If this is the Pacific plate, it's sliding under the Washington plate, the Cascadia plate. And so as that moves, that causes a lot of stuff. And then, of course, we know that fault line goes down through the San Andreas. But the San Andreas is the one we always hear about, but that's not the biggest one on the West Coast. At the Cascadia up there at Seattle area.
It's really the Ring of Fire, what I call the Ring of Fire. That is the big one. And the San Andreas does hook to it. And the one I always watch, because it hardly ever, for all the years, I've never seen it until the last 2 years. And that's the Atlantic Plate. And it goes right up the center from Africa all the way up to Greenland and beyond. And, me and Karen started seeing them. Karen, it's been about, two weeks ago that we started seeing the earthquake on the Atlantic. And I said, whoa. But not one this big, not one like this. They've usually been little ones. They're not real big. I'm thinking 3.9 was maybe one of the bigger ones. But this is a good size. And what gets me is they're all real close to 5.0s. And now it could surprise us and everything die down. But James even said the aftershocks, when there's a whole bunch of them, it isn't good. And these are running in between 10 to about 20 miles deep. So the deeper, it's the worse. It's getting close to our magna core. And so you don't really want the deep ones, but you're going to feel the ones that are closer to the surface. Either ones can cause tsunamis. So if we're having them basically worldwide, our tides could be higher. I watch a tsunami watch, and even the volcanoes, because Dutch Sense does. Yeah, Karen, right there this morning, Karen said we were expecting one in Alaska. Yes, and it happened. It was I kept saying this morning, if those of you want to watch my show this morning, it's the very first part, and I said it's too quiet. It's just too quiet. There's nothing here. There's nothing there. It's too quiet. And then, I leave the room and I did my bowling game and I came back in and I looked and I just went, wow. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
There was a big, there was a, what do you call it? When it comes out, something that comes off the sun, CME type thing that came off the sun yesterday, and then there was a big one on the south side of the sun this morning, and so I was just expecting that we were going to hear something immediately. And of course, about half an hour later, there it was. Suspicious observer, about 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning every day. He's in Arizona. He puts suspicious observers, puts up what's going on with the sun. And he's one of the ones that has said, look, the whole thing with all the earthquakes has an awful lot to do with what's happening with the sun. It has a lot to do with our the magnetic field around the earth. And yeah, the solar flare. That's what I was trying to think of. Yeah, thank you, Terry.
I'm going to say that South America has been having some good size one, and it went quiet. It's still real quiet. That's somewhere I'm keeping an eye on, and boy, these things are just keep popping up. They had, let's see, I believe, let me reload my page. Yeah, they just had a 5.0 on the mid-Atlantic ridge. That one I was telling you that don't have them, they just had a 5.0.
Well, Perry Stone has talked about he's had multiple visions of tsunamis on both of our coasts. And
the last few, Mary Ellen, are all down in Puerto Rico.
And see, something major happening in Puerto Rico is the Gulf Stream is going to bring all that water up to New York City. And I mean, Patricia King has seen the tsunami hitting New York 1,000 feet high. That's part of the motivation for me to leave this area. But, I got kids here. Anyhow, I've got to do what the Lord is telling me I have to do. So I'm just going to be following that. But, look at Matthew 24 and Luke 21. That is where Jesus' disciples said, what is going to be the sign of your coming and the end of the age? And Matthew 24 says, nation is going to rise against nation, kingdom against kingdom. There will be famines and earthquakes in various places. These are the beginning of birth pains. Then you'll be handed over to be persecuted. So we got to be ready for that. I mean, Americans think it's not happening here, even though it happens everywhere else. We can't be that foolish to think that with the things the sins that we have allowed and not stopped as the church, as the Christians in this country, what we have allowed to go forward and not been more vocal, we cannot think that we are going to avoid God's judgment and avoid persecution. That's foolish. Because of the increase of wickedness, the love of most will grow cold, but he who stands firm to the end will be saved. And this gospel of the kingdom will be preached in the whole world as a testimony to all nations, and then the end will come. Well, we know that's already been fulfilled because Billy Graham preached the last time he was on some international broadcast. There were over 2 billion people watching all over the world. Anybody who had access to TV was watching him. And then in Luke 21, again, it's the same thing. Nation will rise against nation, kingdom against kingdom. There'll be great earthquakes, famines, pestilences. Of course, that's what the coronavirus is, pestilence. Fearful events and great signs from heaven. Before all this, they're going to lay hands on you and persecute you. And you're going to be brought before kings and governors on account of my name. Make up your mind not to worry beforehand. I will give you words to say. You're going to be betrayed. Some will be put to death. All men will hate you because of me. I mean, look at the nastiness that goes on social media when you try to say something that's biblical. There will be great distress in the land. Let's see. There will be signs in the sun, moon, and stars. On the earth, nations will be in anguish and perplexity at the roaring and tossing of the sea. Men will faint from terror, apprehensive of what is coming on the world, for the heavenly bodies will be shaken. And you know, we've got a very, very, there's a huge asteroid coming Friday. I think it's between us and the moon. And then a few days ago, there was a huge one, but it was like 4 lunar distances away. So there's a lot of this happening. And somebody named Mike from around the world, his show is Council of Time. His YouTube show is Council of Time. It's mostly Bible studies on Council of Time. But he's going to be on Thursday night with Pastor Paul Begley and Paul Begley or Paul Begley Prophecy at 10 Eastern tomorrow night, Thursday night. He'll be talking again, and he has not been willing yet to admit what is happening May 12th. But he said May 12th, something is going to happen. And I don't know if he works for the NSA or NASA or what exactly his job is, but he doesn't use his own name. And he said something is happening May 12th. That's going to leave us in terror. So don't know what it is. He hasn't told us yet. He said, I don't want you to know yet because I don't want you living in fear between now and then. So,
Mary Ellen, I did have good news.
I would love to hear some good news.
Yeah, good news. I love good news. I love good news. And I was shouting it to the world earlier. The Democratic National Committee is complaining. In the last 2 weeks, they have had a drop. 10% of Democratic voters have disappeared and changed parties. And they're upset because when they looked at the Republicans' voter registration, it went up 10%. Good news.
What up? Registration of Republicans?
Yes.
So
Democrats lost 10% of their voters.
And they
it says the last 2 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks. So really, they're saying what is coming out is, well, they know Bernie's not going to get this, but they don't like Joe Biden, the young voters. So now the young voters, whether they vote or not, we're starting to get the voters in between the ages of 30 and 49. We're not getting the college students. And they are changing party and they are going Republican. So this is good news. And Mary Ellen, you know, this spring's going to be wonderful to get to these college students. So, you know, we've been praying for this.
Will they be on campus? And
Yeah,
I
which
have not heard about darkness the first week in April, MW. I
yeah,
don't know what that's. I know there's supposed to be three days of darkness at some point before Christ returns, but I don't know. And I know NASA's studying that and trying to make it happen. You know, these Luciferians are trying to bring the fulfillment of God's word and say, see, it belongs to him. He's the loving one.
the Luciferians won't really. I don't think they're going to bring anything in. They use summer solstice and the winter. That's when they do their things at Bohemian Grove, and they feel that's when they're most powerful. That and Halloween for some reason. But it usually the summer one, and I think it's mid-June, would be when everybody needs to walk out. Really watch, and during the dark moon time because that's when they do it. So I'm going to say if they're going to start using what they call their powers, get behind me, Satan. They don't mean nothing. They're going to try it mid-June, I believe. I really think that's when they're really going to push hard on us. And I think we all really need to, be praying during that time. I know I do, because that's when they go after Trump. That's the biggest time they admit to where they put all their powers against Trump for something bad to happen to him. And, that's just awful, or evil. It's just really evil. But it was really good news to hear that the polls are switching. And then if you add that to, if you start adding that and calculating out the percentages, you almost get a bigger approval rating. I'm going to stay with 60 on him because of, how unsure everybody is. But, there could, if this goes the way it could, and he gets more and more supporters, he might be looking about 70% approval rating by this fall, which would be awesome. I mean, that would definitely get him in the election.
I mean, the last I saw Monday or yesterday, I think it was Monday, was the Republican approval rating is for Trump is 95%. Even with what's happening with this virus. I mean, if this virus is in any way a CIA, if a big if it's in any way, any kind of false flag thing and fake news to take Trump out, then I think he's doing such an incredible job that there are always going to be people. All right, the Fatima stuff was to my knowledge, according to Elly Marzulli, the Fatima stuff was a UFO that was seen in the sky. But what do I know? Yeah. But there is something in Scripture that says the sun will be darkened and the moon will not show its light. And, it's the sun and the moon. And in 2024, we had the solar eclipse that went across the country from Oregon down to South Carolina, and there's another one in 2024 coming by that will hit the states from north to south, coming down from Canada. And those two solar eclipse lines will, let's see, so it was the other one and the other one. So they're kind of curved lines. They cross at Carbondale, Illinois, which is kind of interesting because there's Little Cairo there and an Egyptian style pyramid there. People claiming it's some kind of portal, who knows?
They did say that they're finding that there's an ingredient, I guess, or something they found in the malaria vaccine that seems to be working. So I'm not sure what that means. That was through the CDC.
And intravenous vitamin C is doing an awesome job in China with the virus as well. Chris, that's pretty funny. I'm not repeating that on the show, but that's pretty funny. Sorry, folks, for mentioning it.
Hillary's probably got the aliens under control too. There's probably alien arkancide happening, or arcan alien side or something. She'd probably kill them too.
Well, when you're talking about aliens, Steve Quayle and L.A. Marzulli both talk about Genesis 6:1, that there were giants in those days, is what it says in Genesis 6:1. And the flood was all about destroying everybody who was not 100% human. And Noah and his family was the only purebred family left on the earth. And so it was destroyed. And then we know that the fallen angels mated with the women, and Jesus said, "As in the days of Noah, so shall it be in the days with the coming of the Son of Man." He also said, "As in the days of Lot." So, where do you get your information about all kinds of arrests happening, Sharon? Thanks for being here. You and I have got to meet in the next couple of weeks, if that's going to happen at all. I know you only live an hour away from me, and we haven't met yet. So
I asked my brother this morning after I heard a priest talk this morning, and I'm okay with the Catholics. I don't know, they're not my cup of tea. But I was born and raised Catholic for many, many years. And I seen this priest almost in tears this morning, because he had to walk out in front of out to do the sermon and ceremony, and to empty pews, because he knew he had to do it online. And it really got to him, and he was calling out for people that preach, that are doing this online, that have groups of viewers to pray and do some type of sermon. And so I call my brother, because he's really good, and he's done quite a few sermons at some gatherings I've done and spoke, and he's real good. And so I called him up this morning. I asked him, and I think he might be doing something tonight. I hope, and it is on hope and faith. And I told him we need to bring the people up to give them hope and give them faith that this isn't all bad. And it's like someone said, we are going to get through this. And oh my goodness, the economy boom we're going to see is going to be nothing like it ever.
That's what Trump is saying.
He's going to make history when this is over.
That's what Trump's saying. Now, one of the things they said this morning with the press conference was that China's stuff started happening in November, and they didn't let us know. And so they're coming out of it now. They have managed. Anyhow, they're on the bottom side of their curve, and same with South Korea. And he said, we started so much later because we didn't know, so we weren't tracking anything. So trying to figure out where we are is questionable, because we're just starting to get some good tests and so on. And he said yesterday this thing could go till July or August. So to hear that Governor Newsom is saying the schools may be closed till the end of the year, that's probably what he's going on. Now, I'm sure he means school buildings, not school, because they'll do online school. It's going to be rough on the teachers to figure out how to do online schooling. But you know what, folks? If there's any chance for you to homeschool, get used to it right now. It's so much safer for your kids not to be brainwashed when we're letting our children. And this upsets me with I have some that are homeschooled, and I have some that are not. And to tell your children that they have your approval to go into a public school classroom, and then they come home with all kinds of nonsense because they're brainwashing these children, and then you're saying that's not true, So it's like you're telling me to go and obey my teacher, but now you're telling me that that's not true. How confused are they? They're going to throw up their hands and believe their peers rather than you as the parent. So I'm counting on that, Chris, that what the devil is meaning for evil right now, God is going to turn around for good. And I'm claiming that for Larry as well.
Mhm.
Have to claim that for Larry, because when we're hearing nothing and the reports we're getting, no change, no change. We're not hearing from anybody who's actually seeing him. We're just hearing from a phone call report, and we don't know. We don't know what to think here. Just don't know what to think. So, it's rough when you hear people vacillating. One minute they're Trump supporters, the next minute they're criticizing him like crazy. And not that we have to be 100% behind him and think that he never makes a mistake. Um, he's made mistakes and he will make mistakes. He's human, he's not God. We don't worship the man, absolutely don't worship him. But I mean, I stop and pray for him and Larry 5 times a day, and when I see people praying for President Trump, I always say, Lord, take that prayer for President Trump and use it for Larry as well. And I plead that all the time. Every day I plead that, because I know there are lots of people in this country who are praying for President Trump. Okay, MW, since you brought it up, I'm going to address this. Larry Klayman is suing China over the virus in the World Court as a class action lawsuit and inviting people to sign up with him. Now, I will only tell you what Larry has told me about Larry Klayman. Larry helped to raise millions of dollars when Larry Klayman started Judicial Watch. Larry Klayman and Larry Nichols had a parting of the ways because Klayman was constantly filing lawsuits and then asking people to send him money because he'd filed this lawsuit. And Larry said it never went any further than filing the lawsuit. So if he's asking people to sign up, is that his way to get more names for fundraising? That is going to be my question based on his history with Larry Nichols.
I've signed many petitions for him, and I've waited. Nothing.
Yep, he has.
I like Tom Fenton because I see Tom Fenton going into court for Hillary. That's what I watch him for. And I even told my brother, I said, if anything, at least I know Tom Fenton's going into court, and at least we're getting somewhere with Hillary. The rest of the world seems chaotic, but at least Hillary's in court. At least Hillary's in court. So, I just say, be careful who you give any money to. Because I've warned people on these charities that only give 25%, and they keep the rest. And these are big charities. You just really have to watch. And if you feel that it's a good cause, sign the petition. But always go back and check with that place to see if something's been done. Because most time they'll let you know. And, Klayman and Tom Fenton parted ways pretty much for the same reasons. You just really have to watch and check people out. I have to check my stories out sometimes 3, 4, 5 times. And there's time my brother comes to me with stuff and I'll say, I don't know about that. I don't know about that. And he said, well, I'll trust you on it. And I said, if you can find another source that can verify this, or documents, or a letter, notes, whatever, go for that. I said, but when I have a feeling, it might not be true and might be fake, we really got to watch it. And even the alternative media is leading people astray on other media. It's like the alternative media decided, well, I'm going to lie a little bit to get the viewers. And no, you can't lie a little bit to get your viewers. Just tell the truth,
And that's why I appreciate Larry so much, because when he first coming out, started coming out on radio, back in those days, you had to have 3 sources that you could name as proof of what you're doing. And if what you said would not stand up in a court of law, you were not allowed to put it out on the air. And they have thrown that rule out the window, but Larry sticks to it.
It's it's real easy to remember the truth. It's real hard to remember your lies. It's real hard to remember all the little details of lies you've told, but it's so easy to tell the truth just because it's the truth.
It's easier to be consistent with your story if it's the truth all the time.
That's right. And I even told people on my show this morning, I said, if I say something that you find isn't true, let me know so we can fix it. And I have done it. I have gotten on a show and thought I had the right info. I had a viewer get a hold of me and showed me. I went on the following day and said, folks, I got to take something back. I wasn't right. Here's what I got, and I'm going to stick with these new details. I'm sorry, but I'm gonna fix it as soon as I can. No, there are no more journalists, not many. I'm taking a journalist class, and it's really tricky and hard. And a lot of it is just anymore. It's not really journalism. It's more how to read your prompters. I don't want to read and say what someone else tells me to say. That's not journalism. Journalism, you go out and you get the story and you write it. I'm just not a good writer. I'm a good note taker, but just not a good writer. I think that's my biggest downfall. But I'm learning more of. I had to switch from being like a journalist to almost being like a everythingalist. Because I study so much in so many different areas, because it says, well, the instructor was saying, figure out how you want journalism. Do you want it history or science and I was like, well, a little of this, a little of that, and a little of this, and a little bit of that, and throw earthquakes and volcanoes and weather forecasting and biblical, and I'm just a little bit of everything. So I'm a everythingalist. But I like it. I like that I look into everything. I wish more of our newscasters would do that. Walter Cronkite used to do a little bit of everything, and he knew a little bit of everything. And I guess I looked up to him that he was one of the last few journalists, because you got into the 80s and 90s, they were just reading at that point. They were reading what they were told to read. And anymore, it's most of the station get all the same script. They just get to tweak it just that little bit. And this is a trick I learned in the journalist class. You get the script and you rewrite it in your own words, but then there's key phrases you got to say. And that's where I think, when you hear Operation Mockingbird and they'll go channel to channel to channel and they're all saying the same thing, it's just either they didn't tweak it or they left a lot of key phrases in that they were told to leave in. So, but I know we're getting close, Mary Ellen.
Yeah, it's time. It's crazy when you see, channel after channel after channel where everybody's saying identically the same thing. It's crazy. So scripted. Well, folks, we're over time. At some point, the first week in April, when I'm moving, we probably will have to skip a show to make up for the time we're going over. So I'm not going to worry about it too much, but we do need to stop. Sorry we came on late. Sorry about the snafu. I have no idea what's going to happen when I try to get in tomorrow. So I'll try to get in at some point tonight and try and figure out what's going on. I don't know if I can figure this out or not. I may have to call somebody to help me. So, anyhow, thanks for being here. As usual, it was a wonderful interaction with y'all. So, thank you. God bless you. And we will talk tomorrow. Bye. I can